Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. I had shared with you my experience as a banker, manager of the branch of a bank. Then I shared with you my experience as a cost auditor. Today I propose to share with you my experience as ISO auditor. This anecdote happened in the year 2002. I was very overjoyed when I got a call from Bureau of Indian Standards that they need my presence in one of the meetings they want to have with the senior officials of a leading bank. Actually, I was remembering that I had passed this lead auditor course conducted by CII, Confederation of Indian Industry, jointly with Cranfield University, London, way back in 1999. And I had applied to all the certifying bodies and also leading ISO auditors to utilize me for training or for audit purposes. But I had not got any response from anybody. So when the call came from Bureau of Indian Standards, that too for a meeting with the senior officials of the bank, I was very overjoyed. I went for the meeting. When I attended the meeting, it was clear that the Bureau of Indian Standards auditors had done this documentation audit when the bank applied for ISO certification. After they had qualified in the documentation audit, there would have been audit of verification of the implementation of ISO at the operation level. But there were some serious gaps in the documentation done by the bank. The meeting was called for that purpose. The Bureau of Indian Standard wanted certain amendments to be made in some of the clauses of the document, but the bank senior officials expressed inability to do so. Hence, the meeting had been arranged, and I saw that the bank officials were expressing that as per the practice of the bank, there are verifiable, measurable quality objectives, targets, business targets, only for the branch head and the branch managers, and not for departmental officers and not for departmental supervisors. However, the Bureau of Indian Standards had pointed out that as per class 5.4.1 of ISO International Standard, ISO 9001 2000, under for which the bank has applied for certification. The Bureau of Indian Standards pointed out that as per class 5.4.1 of the standard, there should be measurable quality objectives at all levels and functions in the organization. So Bureau of Indian Standard BIS maintained that the targets given for branch managers and branch head are not sufficient. The target should percolate down to other middle level officials of the bank also. The bank officials expressed inability. They said that was their business practice for so many years, and as per their agreement with the employees union and also with the officers association, they cannot set up quantitative objectives, targets for departmental managers and also for supervisors. Then my recommendation, my views were sought in a meeting by the senior officials of BIS, the Bureau of Indian Standard. I started by saying that just because international standard ISO 9001 2000 requires certain conditions to be implemented, the bank will not be able to change their normal business practice of having only targets of deposits, advances, everything only for branch managers and branch get. And at the same time, as the senior officials of Bureau of Indian Standards pointed out, unless the requirements of different classes of international standard are complied with, certificate cannot be issued. Having said that, I recommended to the senior officials of BIS that the bank may be encouraged to have some measurable targets for departmental managers, which may not be target for business targets such as so much deposits, so much advances, and so much number of accounts, CASA deposit, and all that. When this idea was put in a meeting, both BIS and also senior bank people, they agreed with the suggestion. But then the next question is, what could be the measurable targets for department managers which will not be objected by union or officers association. When this point came for discussion, the senior managers of the bank did not come out with any suggestion. They appeared to be apprehensive that there may be some difficulty. Then I gave two recommendations. One, I said that the Reserve Bank of India has given time norms for different services to be accomplished by the branch to the customers. Taking a cue from those norms given by Reserve Bank of India, it is possible to set up targets, even more customer friendly targets to departmental managers, and the achievement of these targets can be measured every month or on a quarterly basis, and the trend in achievement can also be reviewed, and possibly over a period of time the targets can also be revised more friendly for the customer, so that the customer service is improved, customer satisfaction is assured, and the achievement of this target will definitely help the bank, the branch manager, to get more deposits and more advances. So this point was well taken. The second suggestion I gave was, in any execution of a job, while the objective is that there should be a zero defect and there should not be any error in execution, it is possible that since we are all human beings and service industry, there could be errors. In manufacturing, everything is standardized and tailor made, but in service industry there could be errors. So possibly we can make a provision in the documentation that errors done in the servicing of different accounts should be monitored, and there could be two sets of errors. Broadly we can classify the errors in twofold. One set of error will be internal. That means the maker has made the error, but then the checker has found it out, and checker has taken steps for correction of the error. This is internal. This doesn't affect the service external customer because the effect is noted internally and corrected. But there could be another set of errors, external errors, where because of the error in the execution of the service as a product becomes defective, and the stakeholders suffer on account of that. I gave the example of simple example of clearinghouse operations and said if the bank by oversight does not put the discharge rubber stamp on the back of the check, account pay is account credited, or some other discharge required, then it is possible that the paying banker will not pay the check unless the discharge is completed in the correct format as per the rules of the clearing house. The paying bank will bounce the check back, requesting for the collecting bank to make that endorsement. So this example I cited, this is an external error, and this can also be focused, this can be mapped. So I recommended that there could be two sets of measurements to begin with. One regarding time taken for completion of the job, and another regarding the error committed in execution of the job. Possibly based on the experience of these two, the departmental managers' measurable objectives can be further enhanced over a period of time to cover safekeeping of the documents and identification of documents and records as obsolete and current, and circulation of head office circulars and RBI circulars to different operational level supervisors. Having spoken about the error and defect, either internal or external, then our discussion switched over to corrective action and preventive action. Once the error is corrected, the next logical step is to ensure that the error is not repeated. So root cause analysis is required to be taken, and the causes for the error being committed has to be identified, and the suitable corrective action should be taken so that the error is not repeated. Then even when there is no error also, in anticipation of a possible error or probability of committing the error, preventive action should also be taken. Then I gave two examples of corrective action and preventive action, one each. One is that in the case of a loan given to salaried staff, if loan is not recovered on the due date, then it's an error because the loan is not recovered, where the party might have given a standing instruction to recover the loan installment from the savings account or current account. So if the loan is not recovered by oversight, it's an error. When once we see this error happening, then what is the corrective action for that? There's a possibility that when you analyze the reason for non-recovery, it may be that the standing instruction for the recovery may not have been properly registered, or may have been overlooked, or maybe it is on a date when the credit balance is not there in the account. One example will be if the salary of the person is the salary of the person who borrowed the loan is credited to the bank's savings account on the first of the month. If the standing instruction noted by the bank in the record for recovery of the loan is of the date of 15th or 16th, some other date, then it is possible that whatever salary credited in the first might have been withdrawn in a few days, maybe first, second or third, and when the standing instruction was tried to be executed, maybe there was no funds available in the account. So in that case, the corrective action will be to amend the standing instruction so that the recovery for the loan will be on the same date when the salary is credited to the account. Then one example for preventive action I highlighted to the bank was that sometimes it's difficult to understand the preventive action. Why should there be some requirement when no errors has happened? A practical example is required to appreciate it. One example I gave was if in some other bank the export documents have been purchased, but then the bill of lading given for purchase was a fake document, was a forged bill of lading. Then in that case there will be NPA, the money could not be recovered from the borrower. If such a situation had happened in some other bank, and Reserve Bank of India or IBA, Indian Banks Association, has issued a circular regarding the fraud, then in our bank, in the bank which is going to get ISO certification, they can make one requirement in the process document for export bill purchase, that the bill of lading submitted for purchase should be verified, it is bona fide, genuine, and for that maybe they will have to inquire the name of the ship and whether there is really a ship sailing on the date, and if this ship is sailing on the date, what is the route of the ship, whether it covers the same route as the document given for purchase, and whether the goods have been kept on board already as per verification with the concerned authorities. So this sort of preventive action can be thought of. So we had a detailed discussion on all these aspects, and bank also improved their documentation, and the error analysis and this TAT turnaround time were not objected by any of the unions or officer association, and I was very happy that I could contribute to this discussion, and the Bureau of Indian Standard was very pleased with me, and they gave me quite a lot of ISO audits. I had gone for so many verification in different parts of the country that gave me a good footing. So this is my experience, first experience as ISO auditor. Thank you very much.